During an 1857 excavation in Rome, archaeologists uncovered a 2nd century plaster wall with graffiti. This graffiti was likely etched by students in a school for slave boys called the Pedagogium, mocking a fellow student. The Romans often used graffiti to make statements or humiliate others, and this inscription is no exception. It depicts a young man named Alexamenos with his hand raised in worship toward a figure on a cross. Strikingly, the figure on the cross has the head of a donkey. In Rome, early Christians were sometimes derisively called asanari, or donkey people, referencing Jesus' entry into Jerusalem on a donkey. The caption beneath the graffiti reads, Alexamenos sebete theon, meaning Alexamenos worships his God. This image is the earliest known depiction of Jesus and highlights the ridicule directed at early Christians. At the time, the cross itself was a symbol of disgrace, used for executing criminals of the lowest status. Even Christians were reluctant to be associated with it. In Paul's letter to the Galatians, he wrote, "Cursed is everyone who is hung on a pole," reflecting the cross's shameful connotations. As Christians spread across the Roman Empire, believers often held diverse views on its teachings. In the early 2nd century, a group of Christians began to teach that, although Jesus was indeed crucified on the cross, he did not truly suffer. He only appeared to suffer. This belief became known as Docetism, from the Greek word dokeo, meaning to appear. To the Church Fathers, this view of Christ's nature posed a serious challenge to the core message of Christianity's redemption. With no established canon of Scripture to address this issue, early Christians turned to the wisdom of the Church Fathers to clarify the orthodox stance on Docetism. The first to confront this heresy was Ignatius of Antioch, a disciple of the Apostle John. As Bishop of Antioch in the late 1st century, Ignatius was a leading figure in the early church, and his connections to the apostolic tradition gave his teachings great authority. On his way to Rome to face martyrdom, he wrote letters defending Christ's true nature against Docetism. Ignatius viewed Docetism as a grave threat to Christian belief, arguing that Christ's humanity, suffering, and death were essential truths to understanding salvation. In his letter to the Smyrnians, Ignatius wrote, "He truly suffered, he truly raised up himself, not as certain unbelievers maintain, that he only seemed to suffer, as they themselves only seemed to be Christians." His repeated use of the word truly emphasized the physical reality of Jesus' suffering and resurrection. Ignatius argued that if Christ's suffering were only apparent, then the entire act of redemption would be devoid of its saving power. Building on Ignatius' teachings, another disciple of the Apostle John, Polycarp of Smyrna, also took a firm stance against Docetism. As the Bishop of Smyrna, Polycarp was renowned for his unwavering commitment to the truth handed down from the apostles. In his letter to the Philippians, Polycarp strongly condemned those who denied Christ's physical existence, writing, "For whosoever does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is Antichrist, and whosoever does not confess the testimony of the cross is the devil, and whosoever perverts the oracles of the Lord to his own lusts, and says that there is neither resurrection nor judgment, he is the firstborn of Satan." Polycarp's use of terms like Antichrist and firstborn of Satan underscored the severity with which he viewed the Docetist heresy. For Polycarp, denying Jesus' true humanity and suffering was not just a theological error, it was a profound spiritual threat. Perhaps the most systematic condemnation of Docetism came from Irenaeus of Lyons, a prominent 2nd century bishop and theologian. As a disciple of Polycarp, who was himself a student of the Apostle John, Irenaeus had a direct link to the apostolic tradition, giving his teachings undeniable authority. In his work Against Heresy, Irenaeus directly addressed the false teachings threatening to distort Christian doctrine, including Docetism. He argued that the incarnation of Christ was fundamental to humanity's redemption, stating, "For if he did not really become man, it was not man who was redeemed. And if it was not man who was redeemed, neither can we rightly say that we were redeemed." Irenaeus' point was clear. If Jesus had not genuinely taken on human flesh, then the salvation he offered would not be real. His emphasis on Christ's true humanity directly countered the Docetist claim that Jesus' physical body was an illusion. As early Christian leaders like Ignatius, Polycarp, and Irenaeus defended the true suffering of Christ, the symbol of the cross gradually transformed from a symbol of humiliation into a sign of Christian triumph. The earliest existing manuscript of the Gospel of John, called Papyrus 66, written in the 2nd century, contains an intriguing image in chapter 19, where the words, "There they crucified him," appear. The Greek word for cross, stauros, is depicted as a combination of the Greek letters tau and rho, resembling a man on a cross. This symbol also appeared on early Christian ossuaries. The letter tau holds profound biblical significance, not only because it resembles the cross, but also because it was a mark of salvation. In Ezekiel 9:4, the tau was marked on the foreheads of those to be saved. The Lord called to the man clothed in linen, who had the writing kit at his side, and said to him, "Go throughout the city of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over all the detestable things that are done in it." The Hebrew word for mark is tau, prefiguring the cross of Christ as the mark of Christians.